We understand an upside-down world, but they're writing us off before we get to the starting line. A stalled generation? Who do you think is gonna fix all this? We will, because our future is the future. So we're going to build bridges and hospitals in a day, and feed those left in the cold. We're going to do all this and more, because we have an appointment with destiny.
What's happening, sports fans? We welcome you back to another edition of the San Diego Prep Insider Basketball Podcast. In this postseason, we have seen some highs, we have seen some lows, and we are down to the stage where we are saying adios and happy trails to seniors as they finish their careers. The semifinals are over. The finals have been picked. Aaron, I will be curious, in all of these different matchups open through Division 5, is there one out of this that surprises you the most?
I would say Division 2 going chalk. I didn't expect that. I thought that Grit would have a chance to pull out that win. They didn't. So
all right, well, then we will get to the Division 2 one eventually. Let's start with Division 5, though. Classical Academy continues to impress and continues to have success this postseason. They are into the finals after defeating Del Lago. Santana wins on the road at Valley Center with another upset. So one of the lower seeded aggregate brackets, Classical Santana. Who and what do you like out of this game?
One thing I don't like is the fact that I've got to choose between the Division 3 and the Division 5 thing. Let's get that out of the way right now. That's one thing that over the last few years, the evolution of the championship, how it's been logistically set up. Having to choose between going to see four very deserving teams is just really disappointing. With that said, what do I like in the I love, again, that we've got this David versus Goliath set up. We've had it, it's become a tradition in Division 5 basketball. Last year, David played Goliath when St. Joseph's Academy ran Valley Center out of it. Yeah, the good game. I don't see it being that way this time. I actually see Santana being able to have enough to pull off the win. They're, the bigger school. They've had, beating Valley Center at Valley Center is probably the game this year in the Division 5 level. And the way that they really pull it off is absolutely incredible. Probably beating the same shot. Hats off to the Falcons and to their fan base who was in 1993, so I'm going to go with Santana in this one. I think that Brody Chapman will have an opportunity to win a title during his career. I don't think it's going to be this year, but I do think the game will be good.
Okay, I like it. Close game, and you're predicting future success with Classical Academy, so you're somewhat hedging your bets. I like it, covering all of your bases. The if not now, then when for Brody Chapman and company. Santana, at this point, to me, I guess I like the team that, kind of does it with a little bit of the late game flair, and like they seem to be a little I don't know. Very hard to pick when you've got two teams that we have both consistently said, hey, it's great story, but and now they're in the finals. So happy to see both of these teams here to prove us wrong. Division 4, San Pasqual and Imperial. I think that at this point, people would hopefully realize that we are a tad bit educated, informed, and pro Imperial basketball. The Tigers have one of our favorite players in not just this division, but all divisions. Hashtag justice for Imperial basketball on all CIF teams. But San Pasqual, as an 8 seed, they showed a lot in taking down El Cap. So
handily taking down El Cap.
So I'm curious your thoughts here. If this is going to be San Pasqual spent all their bullets getting here and Imperial's too big of a challenge, or is this going to be a great fight, or is really Imperial the better team here?
I think, honestly, the better team might be San Pasqual on paper in terms of just depth. They've got, like I said, they've got, 4 or 5 guys who really can, either score it, defend, they play hard. I've always been a fan of Christian Zamora since his freshman year. Love what AJ Fournier has done his final year. Luol Tut coming over was kind of a game changer. They had some other guys who have had really stellar seasons as well. I just think that Imperial has the best individual talent in the on the floor, and the supporting cast has started to really come around. An X factor that we really haven't talked about a lot is Jared Nixon, who's also a pretty good football player too for Imperial. He came up big throughout the playoffs, being kind of that bookend forward for them alongside Scariano, giving them a really good interior challenge. I think what this will come down to is what guard on Imperial will neutralize or at least make Christian Zamora work hard for his buckets. I'm picking Imperial, but I think that if Christian Zamora does get loose, that this is anyone's game. But I just like Scariano as being kind of the superior alpha talent on the court to get it done.
Let's talk Division III. Victory Christian Academy continues to roll. I have somewhat labeled them the team of destiny. They feel like they're going to win this one because they're the 1 seed, because they've demonstrated, because they've checked all the boxes. Ramona as the 3 seed is definitely a challenge, but I see this one as Victory's game to win or lose. Your thoughts?
It's definitely Victory's game to win or lose, I believe. That semifinal game for the Ramona game was a little too close for comfort for me. You know, a 53-52 win at High Tech San Diego. I thought Ramona would actually put that one away early, but credit to High Tech for really, making that a last second game and a last second fair. With that said, what Victory did versus Rancho Buena Vista really underscores how dominant they've been in Division III this year. Close game at halftime, they come out, make the adjustment, end up nearly winning the game by 40 points. So I think this is safe to say this is Victory Christian's game to win. And then it honestly sets off the debate that I've been dreading for the last several weeks. Who is freshman of the year in San Diego? Is it Jaden Gray, who has put up a statistically impressive season for any level of high school player, whether it's from freshman to senior, or is it the kid who I saw last night score 30 points against the number 1 team in San Diego? So it's an interesting one.
My head just hurts even having to think about that debate and that discussion, because there's probably 1 or 2 other kids that we could throw in there just for the sake of
Jaden LaBelle. I mean, Juju LaBelle, CJ Aldrich. This is like we talked about last podcast. Most productive group of freshmen that we've seen in San Diego in quite some time. All of them are deserving of accolades. But when we start talking about freshmen,
maybe we'll just give everybody a participation ribbon this year for freshman of the year. Just dole out some.
I have an affinity for giving everything when I'm, if push comes to shove. But this one just feels like, man, this is a debate that's going to brew for the next, whoever's camp doesn't win freshman of the year, they're going to hold this over me for the next 4 years. Like, remember when you said that this kid was the freshman of the year? And I know that's going to happen. But it is what it is. But Victory Christian in this one over Ramona for sure.
On to Division II. You said this was kind of surprising because it went chalk. Number 1, Otay. Number 2, Lincoln. Your thoughts on this game?
They're the only division to go chalk, and that's been the surprise. Every other division broke either 1-3 or, like we said, 6-8 in Division 5, which is crazy. 3-8 in Division 4. This is a rematch game, and this is a game that Otay Ranch won handily in I think Lincoln's second game of the season. Since then, Lincoln has won all but one game. Their one loss was in the championship game of the Tark Classic against a good team from Colorado. I can't remember the name. I think it's like Fort Carson something in Colorado. But with that said, I'm picking Lincoln. Lincoln has all the momentum right now. And I feel like from what I remember about that Otay Ranch game, it was very close. Otay was up maybe 2 or 3 points when Kylan King fouled out like at the end of the third quarter. And without him, Otay was able to put together a big run and end up running up the score a little bit more than the game would have been otherwise. I really do think that Lincoln has been playing better basketball than almost every team in the county over the past month. I would say the only teams that have been playing better than them would be St. Augustine and probably Montgomery at this point. Everyone else has taken losses along the way. They breezed through the City League this year. They've they've won every game in the playoffs comfortably. Otay had to sweat it out against a Scripps Ranch team that Lincoln beat decisively back at the MLK Day Classic. So I think everything trends toward Lincoln. But again, the caveat being, can Lincoln's alpha guys, starters, stay out of foul trouble? And especially Kylan King, because if he gets in foul trouble, Otay has already shown that they can take advantage of that. So, but I'm picking Lincoln. But again, another great game and a game I've got to choose between one of three places. I can either, I haven't figured out the cloning thing yet. I mean, we got close with sheep back in the 90s. We really and unless they figured it out and it's just under wraps somewhere, in some bunker, we haven't figured out how to human clone yet. And I can't be at Mira Mesa, Otay Ranch, and St. Augustine at the same time.
It would be difficult
to
find a way to be at all of them at the same time. Maybe 2 out of 3, but not all 3.
Not all 3.
On to the Division I game, Mission Bay, La Jolla Country Day. Mission Bay holds on. A close one against San Diego. That feels like that was a pretty solid test for them. La Jolla Country Day, again, they're going to be another solid test. I'm curious if he'll pick the 1 seed in this one, unlike in the previous brackets.
I'm picking the 1 seed in this one. I'm picking Mission Bay. Again, another rematch. I believe Mission Bay beat La Jolla Country Day really comfortably at that Bucks Thanksgiving Classic. La Jolla Country Day did not have their starting center, Vito Batsupizio, at that point. I believe he was still recovering from a shoulder injury suffered during football. But Mission Bay didn't have Angelo Gill at the same time either. And I think that Mission Bay actually, we were both at that game, and I felt like Mission Bay used that third quarter counterpunch to really put that game relatively away relatively earlier than I expected. What they were up 17. No, weren't they up 20 at one point in that third quarter against San Diego? It was like 17 to 20 points or something like that. San Diego obviously made the push, made the math look a little cleaner at the end with that 6-point game. But I just really like they were able to pretty much handle that second half. And I think that La Jolla Country Day, one could make the argument that if Del Norte had their full team, their full roster, we might be talking about a Del Norte Mission Bay championship game. No Zion Alphawade made a huge difference in what turned out to be a double overtime thriller. Great game. I'm picking Mission Bay. I think the X factor here is going to be, I think it's going to be Gavin Gerard. He has become a dominant offensive threat for Mission Bay, and he's going to have his work cut out for himself defensively on the other end. But if he gets off and he gets going, it'll be a long night for La Jolla Country Day. I think Mission Bay wins this one.
Let's close out with the open division game. Saints, Montgomery.
The rematch. Another rematch.
Yeah. And Saints, I think, probably sent a message saying, hey, we're not to be trifled with this year. We're a real good team with their win over San Ysidro. But Montgomery going on the road at Carlsbad is not something that can be overlooked in the grand scheme of things. Go ahead.
It's as impressive a road win on the playoffs that we've seen in a while. I would put it, I think that, honestly, I think maybe the last true road win that we saw at that level would have been it's been a long time, man. It's been a while. I've been trying to think about that. I thought about I was thinking that it may have been the St. Augustine Foothills Christian matchup, but Saints won that game at home back in 2017, beating Jalen Hands in the so it wasn't a road
the
win
Brad
for
Lee
Saints.
timeout fiasco game.
Yes. Yep. But like I said, going up to Carlsbad, packed house, that was impressive. They earned a lot of credit from and a lot of kudos from me for that win. One thing I love about that win too, if you actually watch the crowd, Montgomery traveled really well that night. They brought damn near half that school up there. So kudos.
The Montgomery team, when they were here in studio with us, made special note to point out how they feel like the student section down there is going through a bit of a renaissance. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, for sure. This is a tricky game because everything should point to Saints, winning this game by a decisive margin and again completing this undefeated march through San Diego competition. Here's where if I'm Saints and I'm Mike Haupt, I worry. So much value and so much stock was placed in a semifinal game. It was billed as the game of the year, the most anticipated game we've seen in San Diego, in years. And they obviously, you could tell that everyone in the stands felt that way. Sold out crowd, energy was absolutely electric for 1.5 quarters. And then, of course, Saints did what I kind of expected them to do. Took over the game late second quarter, continued that run into the third quarter, put the game away by the end of the third. It really, there was really no contest. Mike Haupt now has to get his team refocused and realize that was a semifinal game. We have a championship now to prepare for against a team who played us really competitively in the first game of the season and, first half of the first game of the season and has only gotten better since then. If you'd have told me that 4 months ago that the 78-65 opening night win at for Saints would have been the CIF championship game 4 months later, I would have laughed. I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought that all roads were going to lead to that Saints San Isidro game. One thing I will say about Mike Haupt is that he has probably been the best coach in terms of refocusing his teams on the fly. And I think that they will realize they've got a game left. Montgomery brings a very intriguing challenge in the fact that they can slow the game down to the point where you have to play at that slow pace. Look at what they did to Carlsbad, a team that was coming into the game averaging like 75 points a game, held them 48 points, really frustrated Jay Call and crew, impressive defensively. And, they're going to have to do the same thing with Saints because Saints plays at a very similar, if not a similar style, but a more superior pace than Carlsbad does. So all this said, I'm just doing this as just like as a prelude because I think it's going to be a great game. I think Saints again is going to do what they've done all year. Montgomery will hang close those first 2 quarters. They may even lead at halftime.
Ooh,
that third quarter,
yes, I like that.
That third quarter is crucial. If Montgomery can somehow figure out and solve what no team has been able to do and that includes, I'll tell you this right now, that includes Kell of Georgia, that includes Notre Dame of Sherman Oaks, that includes who else did they lose to in the Tart Classic? Any of those teams. Saints won the third quarter in every single one of those games. If Montgomery somehow can limit Saints' damage in that third quarter, it will be anyone's game going into the fourth. My money is that Saints will make the adjustment, will win the third quarter, and will beat Montgomery anywhere between 10 to 12 points and will become the first believe it or not, the first back-to-back Open Division champions in the history of San Diego's Open Division.
I can believe it. We haven't had a team that's necessarily been truly dynastic. We've had a lot of really good teams, but nobody that I would say has been on a 10-year tear of like.
The closest we got, I think Bowie Fertig asked me this last night. Like, what's the closest we've gotten to back-to-backs? Torrey Pines had that 3-year run from 2019 to 21. They beat Foothills in 2019, lost to Cathedral in 2020, beat Cathedral in 2021. That's close to a dynasty.
Like that was Gilliam and Finn O'Sullivan and the Popes and that whole group for Torrey.
So 2019 was the Popes. 2020 was Brandon Angel. And then 2021 was Herman and Howell. And then the other group, we kind of forget this because like I was thinking like hasn't there already been a back-to-back? Didn't Foothills win it back-to-back? They didn't. They won the Division II title in TJ's junior year by 40. I mean, it was crazy. It was like 88-48. They beat Mira Mesa, and CIF basically bumped them into the Open Division for state playoffs, which set off like this huge like outcry from the Foothills people. Like you robbed us of a state championship. You know, and then the next year they turn around and beat Cathedral Catholic by 20 in the Open Division championship. So they did win back-to-back titles, just not Open Division titles.
An interesting caveat to how this all works out.
Yeah, will be.
Yeah, Aaron, thank you so much. We appreciate you tuning in with us. We hope that you do figure out the secrets to either cloning or maybe astral projection or some sort of way to be at multiple games between now and 5 p.m. today.
If I could, you know what? If I could find Tilda Swinton, and if she could like teach me that whole, yes, push my body out and send my spirit to Otay and then go to, it'd be great. But
I like you trying to do that, opening up a portal and like you come out mid-court at the Otay game on accident. You overshoot it by like 3 feet and somehow disrupt the like player falls through or something.
Well, if I do that in the Division 5 game, some kid's gonna probably break their collarbone as they come like careening into me. I'm sorry, I'm a big guy. Like it's not
moving screen. That's a foul.
Yeah, that's an offensive foul on number, COTC black.
Yeah, Ouchtown population, bro. But yeah, deal. Follow him at Fulltime Hoops 1. Aaron will be updating everybody constantly as he always does. He's on point. Aaron, you doing a live between now and any of these finals that people should know about?
I probably will hop on in the afternoon and talk a little bit about the championships. They can go on my Instagram, Fulltime Hoops 1, and I'll probably make some type of announcement in the next hour.
Killer. All righty, man. Thank you very much, folks, for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys, or we'll see you guys at the finals.
Yes, sir.